Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, today I want to make video. That in this video I want to analyze the poem. Okay, the title of this poem is I do not love you except because love you, created by Pablo Neruda. Okay, before I analyze this poem, I want to introduce myself. My name is Kesdhikawati, Adwi Parnlesta. My student number is 038, and then I am from class A. Okay, let's start and enjoy this video. Okay, before I analyze this poem, I want to read this poem. The title is I do not love you except because love you, created by Pablo Neruda. I do not love you except because I love you. I go from loving to not loving you, from waiting to not waiting for you. My heart moves from cold to fire. I love you only because it is you the one I love. I hate you deeply, and hating you, bend to you, and the measure of my changing love for you is that I do not see you but love you blindly. Maybe general lack will consume my heart with its cruel right, stealing my key to true calm. It is part of the story. I am the one who dies, the only one, and I will die of love because I love you. Because I love you, love in fire and blood. Okay, now I want to analyze this poem. I want to analyze the first stanza. In this stanza, there are 4 lines. Okay, the first line is I do not love you except because I love you. In this first line of this stanza, Pablo describes how he feels to others he loves. He keeps telling himself that he didn't love him, but he couldn't hold back his feelings and emotions. And then the second line is I go from loving to not loving you. In this line, Pablo wants to forget her, hate her, because he know that he loved her, and then it was impossible for him to forget or hate her. And then the next is from waiting to not waiting for you. It is third line of this stanza. And then in this line, Pablo is waiting for a miracle for him to be beloved by the people he loves. And then the last stanza or first stanza, my heart moves from cold to fire. In this stanza, we know that Pablo felt that his waiting was endless, so he felt very missed because his heart was burning with love for someone, and then Pablo want to get her and want to live together with her. Okay, the next I want to analyze the second stanza, and then this stanza there are 4 lines. It is same for the first stanza. Okay, the first line is I love you only because it is you, the one I love. Okay, in this line, Pablo describes how he feels love with someone because she is the only person that he loves. And then the second line is I hate you deeply, and hating you In the second line, Pablo saw that he was actually trying to hate these persons. He knows that this love is causing pain in him, so he hates her because she has hurt him. And then the third line is bends to you and the measure of my clinging love for you. In this line, Pablo, when he talked about bringing the opportunity in this nature and not loving him and did not see it, but at the moment only he realized that it was impossible. And then the last line is the third line, and is that I do not see you but love you blindly. Pablo, in this line, Pablo know that he loved her blindly, so he want to forget her, hate her, but the truth is that his love is pure and irreversible. Okay, the next I want to analyze of the third stanza. In this stanza there are 3 lines. Okay, the first line is maybe January like will consume. In this line, Pablo describes how in January he seems to be going away from the people that he loves, so that the moon that will appear in that moon make him fade away from the miracle. And then the second line of this stanza is my heart with it is cruel. In this line, Pablo wants to forget her and it will be the toast for him. He knew that this would break his heart. Everything will be cruel to him. And then the last line is right strailing my cake to true calm. In this line, Pablo was afraid that this would take away his inner peace, his calm forever. For him, someone is very important. Okay. The next is the third stanza. In this stanza, there are 3 lines. Is same for the third stanza. Okay, the first line is in this part of the story, I am the one who. In this first line, Pablo knows that it is possible to live with all the people that he loved. Hence, he felt that he would die from the fact that his love would come fulfilled. And then the second line is that's the only one and I will die of love because I love you. In this line, Pablo felt happy that the reason for the end of his life was to love him. He knows that this love will only kill him. And then the last line of this stanza is because I love you, love in fire and blood. In this line, Pablo considered it does not diminish his love because his love has become one with the blood and passion that is in him. Okay. The next analyze about sound device. The first is rhythm, the second is rhyme, and then the third rhyme scheme, and then the fourth is assonance. Okay, the first is rhythm. Rhythms in the poetry are related to sounds, word, phrase, and sentence. And then in the rhythm, the sounds appear high, low, long, short, loud, and weak. So that in this poetry, the readers must be precise to determine which words can be read low or high. Okay, for example, of the first stanza. I do not love you except because I love you. I go from loving to not loving you, from waiting to not waiting for you. And then my heart moves from cold to fire. Okay, this is the example. And then the second is rhyme. Rhyme is the repetition of the same or similar sounds, usually in the stressed syllables at the ends of lines, but sometimes within a line. Okay, the example is of the first stanza. I do not love you except because I love you. I go from loving to not loving you, from waiting to not waiting for you. This is the similar sounds. Okay, and then the third is rhyme scheme. In this poem, the title I do not love you except because love you into the first stanza of uneven legs, and then the stanza rhyme from 3 or until 4 lines, and then this poem with no rhyme scheme. Okay, with no rhyme scheme. And then the structure of this poem, the 4 lines in the first 2 stanzas, and then the 3 lines in the last 2 stanzas. Okay, the next is assonance. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds within non-rhyming words. The example is I in this poem. Okay, I want to read. I do not love you express because I love you. I love you only because it is you the one I love you. Sorry, I love you only because it is you the one I love. In here, the repetition of vowel is I. Okay, the next is the repetition. Repetition is a repeating of a particular sound device to create an effect of this poem. To create emphasis, a poet may repeat words or lines within the poem. Okay, the example of this poem on the first stanza is I do not love you except because I love you. I go from loving to not loving you, from waiting to not waiting for you. My heart moves from cold to fire. So the repetition is love you, and then loving, and then waiting of the first stanza. Okay, the next is imagery. Poetry or poems use words that appeal to the reader's sense of sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. Okay, the example of this poem, there are on the first stanza. In this part of this story, I am the one who dies, the only one, and I will die of love because I love you. Because I love you, love in fire and purge. Okay, on this stanza, we know that the writer or Pablo want to give the reader's feeling of what the writer is feeling, so that in this poem, using sense or taste. So the sense use the heart, neither, and then the heart, merasakan, feels. Okay, sad feelings, the sad of the writer. And then the next is figurative language. In here, the writer used the personification, hyperbola, and then etc. The first is The first is the personification. This language style seems to replace that function of inanimate object that can behave like humans. And then it is the example of this poem of the third stanza. Maybe generally like will consume my heart with it is cruel. And then the next is hyperbole. Hyperbole, namely expressing something with the impression of being excessive, even almost absurd. Okay, this, and then the example of the hyperbole of the first stanza, and then the end of the last line. Okay, because I love you, love in fire and blood. Fire and blood, it is absurd. And then the next is repetition. The repetition, this language style repeats the word in the sentence. This is we know that the first stanza, they are the first line, the second line, and then the third line. I do not love you is because I love you. I go from loving to not loving you, from waiting to not waiting for you. Okay, we know that repetition of on the first stanza, they are love you, and then I, and then loving, and then waiting. Okay, this is the figurative language of this poem. And then the next is tone or mood. It is the feelings the author's word choice give the poem. Okay, we know that the example of this poem, there are the first stanza and then the third stanza. Okay, I do not love you except because I love you. I go from loving to not loving you, from waiting to not waiting for you, and my heart moves from cold to fire. It is the first stanza. And then so in this mood or tone example of this first stanza, we know that Pablo really loves someone and he can't help but love him. He keeps waiting until his heart turns to fire. And then the third stanza is maybe January like will consume my heart with it is cruel and try stealing my key to true call. Okay, the next is theme of this poetry or this poem. Okay, the theme is love is one side. He loves someone so much, and the fact that she is not love in the return, that he, the people or a man, or he questions himself by he loves her. One part of his consciousness asks him not to love her, but he couldn't live without loving her. He wanted to hate her, but he couldn't to hate, and then because he loved her so much. Okay, this is my video, and then thank you for your watching, and see you the next video. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.